fourth round of F1 Academy in Zandvoort kicked off in rather tricky conditions, which provided the drivers with plenty of on-track challenges, especially at turn 3. Amna Alcobazi, Chloe Chambers and Bianca Bustamante all succumbed. Unfortunately, Bianca Bustamante had a big moment in her McLaren and was out of qualifying and didn't set a time. However, it was Abby Pulling who took her 5th pole position. Hello and welcome. This weekend, the iconic circuit of Zandvoort, surrounded by the rolling dunes of the Dutch coastline, sets the stage for round 4 of the F1 Academy season 2024. Now, it really does promise to be another highly competitive round from what we saw in qualifying earlier today. Now, this is one of the most challenging tracks. It's famous for its undulating terrain, tight corners, and that unique banking, which really has tested the skills of even the best drivers. At 4.26 kilometers in length and 14 turns, there is plenty to get excited about. But take a look at that. We really have had all 4 seasons in one day. We had rain this morning in qualifying. We had sunshine this afternoon. And it looks like a storm could be brewing. Dry at the moment, but we think things could change during the course of this week. I'm delighted to say my name is Nikki Shields. Joining me alongside in commentary is Joe Osborne, former McLaren factory driver. And we also have special guest with us, former racing driver and now F1 presenter, Naomi Schiff. Joe, you can see the drivers are all lining up there. Are they keeping their fingers crossed for a dry race, or are they hoping actually a wet race kind of suits me, because they've done a lot with it. They had a test here in Zandvoort earlier in the year in the wet. They did their qualifying in the wet, and actually some of the drivers, including the likes of Abby Pulling, go better in the wet. Yeah,
you're 100% right there. Pulling on pole position obviously has the most to lose with these changeable conditions, but she has been dominating in the wet.
Let's take a look at the starting grid. So Amna Alcobazi in 16th with Emily de Hausch in 14th. Bianca Bustamante is not going to be competing, we are told. Her car is not ready for the race. Lola Lovenfoss there in 13th. Tina Hausman in 12th, with Carrie Schreiner in 11th. Race winner here in Zandvoort last year. Jess Edgar, British racing driver, in 10th. Hamda Alcobazi also won twice last year in Zandvoort. Leah Block, great qualifying from her, starting from P8th. American driver in the Haas car, Chloe Chambers, will be starting from 7th. Nina Gateman, the best performance from a rookie driver we've had this season, is starting from 6th. A great performance from her. Aurelia Nobles in 5th. Maya Vug on the second row of the grid in the Ferrari in 4th. And Nerea Marti will be starting in 3rd. Dorian Pain is back on form. Front row, 2nd on the grid. But it was Abby Pulling who managed to finish qualifying just a 10th ahead of her biggest rival and takes her 5th consecutive pole position. Well, there we have it. Anyone good at reading weather maps? What is that telling us?
It's about to get wet, that's for sure. You can see in the background the rain actually falling less than 5 kilometers away, and that is coming. The fans starting to get their coats on and umbrellas. This is the first race of the weekend here at Zandvoort, and I think it's going to be action-packed if it was dry, and the weather is going to definitely add to it, that's for sure. Obviously everyone's starting on slicks, but are they going to finish on those tyres? I think the odds are low.
Naomi, you know what it's like better than anyone. From your experience going into the start of a race, not knowing what the conditions are like, does that play to the strengths of some drivers and yet hinder others? What's it like? Put us in the cockpit of the driver and their situation at the moment.
Yeah, well, this is the trickiest situation for a driver, because honestly, when you're sitting in the car, whilst they are static right now, you can't really tell how damp, how wet the surface is around you. And then again, you don't have a windscreen wiper on your visor. So when you see drops, you're like, is that a lot of rain? Is that not a lot of rain? What I can tell you is I'm sitting here on the site and I can see loads of drops of rain on the commentary booth window. So it has started to rain. You can see all the fans in the grandstand starting to get their ponchos on, and the wind has picked up massively, and the direction just seems to keep changing. So that's going to be a real challenge for the drivers out there today.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned, I mean, earlier, I think there was a tailwind going into turn 1, which obviously doesn't help when it comes to braking into turn 1, but with the wind direction changing all of the time, I mean, how difficult is it to really understand what you're going to be needing to get the best out of? Let's listen in.
Looks like Voldemort is about to come over.
Oh, well, I hope Voldemort isn't going to come over, or, you know, maybe for the fans among you, you do. But obviously we're going into the formation lap now. This is a very limited amount of track time before the start of the race. What are they trying to do? What are they getting into?
It is all about tyre temp now, because it's only going to get worse. If you can get a few more degrees in those tyres, it's going to really help you quite soon.
Yeah, well, we had the chance to catch up with 3 of our drivers before they went out on track. Let's hear from them now.
Yeah, we qualified P3 for the next race. It was a really difficult and tough qualifying for us. It was really wet. Yesterday the practice were in dry, so really different from yesterday. We don't know yet if it will be raining or in dry conditions, but yeah, we will push to be on the top, and yeah, let's go for it.
I think race 1 today will be wet. The broadcast said that, so I believe it's going to be wet. I think it's positive because qualifying was really good, so we can aim for something good and to try to fight for the victory. Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously I'll think about if we are doing a rolling start or standing start, the procedure that I'll go through, and making sure I'm ready for it. But it's a long race, so there'll be a lot of tyre management. I think it's quite easy to overheat these tyres, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be our first wet race of the season, probably the only one, so yeah, just look forward to it.
Interesting there. Not normally quite the same amount of energy that we see from Abby Pulling. I don't know whether that was perhaps off the back of not getting that pole position. Wow, look at that weather. That is really quite windy. Not particularly enjoyable, and it looks like it could be an aborted start.
Yeah, obviously the safety car doesn't usually line up there, so the weather coming in, the race director has been smart and has now called an aborted start. Really difficult there, because when they did pull away, let's listen in.
It's huge wind, huge wind.
Yeah, we can see that, can't we, in the background of the flags really pushing on now. It has changed direction slightly, and that's what has brought the rain in. So I think the smart move here from race control is going to be to allow the teams back onto the grid and put all of these drivers onto a wet weather tyre. No intermediates to choose from, obviously no pit stops planned in the race, so this is going to be the only way. And interestingly, as you see the teams suddenly scramble, luckily all 10 F1 teams have their associated cars, so the teams are being looked after, even though they're not based here in the pit lane direct. The tyre trolley is about to go out. You can see those wet tyres to the left on the top there. Some brand new ones for the Rodin team. So Abby Pulling probably getting at least one of those sets. The drivers will be getting relatively wet here. Interestingly, the front row of Pulling and Pan both had their light visors on, so they expected this, like Pan said in her interview. And Pulling, knowing that maybe a safety car start was possible in terms of talking about a rolling start. So both of those two on the front row seem pretty well prepped.
I mean, Naomi, from your perspective, this isn't really what you want to happen at the start of the race, isn't it? How much does this change your, well, I guess your mental ability to start the race where you are right now?
It is slightly nerve-wracking. I think as a driver, I'd be very happy to see the mechanics coming onto the grid there with the tyre trolleys, because I think the most concerning thing I thought when they started to go for the formation lap is that they were all on slick tyres. Now, because the weather conditions were wet in qualifying, all these drivers have a couple of sets of slick tyres on hand. So they were all on new slicks, presumably going into the start of this race. The weather conditions completely turning around, and the wind, as you guys both rightly mentioned, is not just blowing really hard, but it's constantly changing direction. That's something we've not seen all weekend long. It's been very, very intense wind, but it's often been very consistent in the direction that it's been blowing. So that for the drivers is such a tricky thing to deal with. These wing cars are so sensitive to the wind. So they'll be positively surprised to see, well, probably less surprised than you think, but happy to see the mechanics coming out there and just them waiting this moment out to see what the weather conditions are going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the right thing to do. That's for sure. Also, Naomi, I'd love to talk to you, because obviously this is the second season of F1 Academy, and it really does give women in motorsport the opportunities. It has completely changed motorsport. I think, you know, putting F1 Academy on the global stage on an F1 race weekend. What changes are you seeing within the paddock?
Well, honestly, it's been such a fantastic thing to witness. I obviously was a part of W Series as a driver. I also then, was further involved with the series. And whilst that was an incredible catalyst for this movement, I think what's been the biggest change is to see just the level of involvement from Formula One on this initiative, and to have 10 teams, and I guess Red Bull have a couple extra cars, but 10 teams all the way down the F1 paddock to have cars in their liveries, to bring the drivers behind the scenes into their factories, working with them on their development, letting them work with their Formula One drivers. That for the drivers is a huge learning curve, and that is the support that they well and truly need, and we need the whole industry to get behind this. I mean, it's great to have the girls on track, and experience is such an important thing, but it needs to be backed by the powers that be in Formula One, and it's great to see that that is what's happening in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. It really has been. And as you say, it's not just the F1 teams putting their livery on the car. They really are supporting it from every angle possible. And it's been brilliant to see so many of the faces from the F1 teams in the paddock supporting the F1 Academy drivers. And of course, it's not just the F1 teams. That's just 10 of the cars. We've also got big names like Tommy Hilfiger, Charlotte Tilbury, Amex, just to name a few. So it really has attracted the good and the great. And it's just a massive showcase now for some of the best talent in the world to get out there. And I mean, Joe, as a driver as well, how important it is to be seen, to show your racecraft to the world, to bring in partners, to bring in sponsors, to bring in money, because racing is expensive and you need to get yourself out there and known.
Yeah, exactly. And you get the wild card here of Nina Gaiman, who's been fast all weekend, sponsored by Female Quantitative, and it's been impressive how quickly she got up to speed, actually on the front two rows until the last part of qualifying. And even we talk about the F1 teams, but you can see the mechanics in the red overalls. Prema running 3 of these cars. Let's listen in on Pulling's radio.
He's blowing away.
You could
Don't lose your brolly, Pulling. Your hair's going to go curly in the rain.
She was having to hang on to it for dear life earlier on. So, yeah, luckily the halo's kind of helping out a little bit there. But even the teams involved running the car, like I was saying, Prema running, Dorian Pan, Houseman and Mara Vogt, they've run so many current F1 drivers. Currently 5 drivers on the grid that they've run: Ocon, Stroll, Leclerc, Gasly and Piastri. So just the teams running these drivers know how to breed champions to the highest level of motorsport, and all of that support network is only going to accelerate the learning for all 16 of these drivers.
Exactly, and it's very much important to obviously understand that there's a part of a racing pyramid. You don't necessarily go from F1 Academy straight into F1. You then have to, Pulling has actually lost her umbrella. That's actually quite funny. Just have to take a moment there. They fixed it. Good old engineers. Right, yeah, there is obviously this pyramid, so you would naturally, most probably, go from F1 Academy across into F4, although it's interesting, I think 5 of the F1 Academy drivers have already been racing in British F4 this year, and then move up into F3, F2, and eventually we will see that first female racing driver in F1. Well, not first, but first in this generation anyway.
Yeah, just seeing race control, further update in 5 minutes. Just trying to look down the grid to see if any teams are doing setup changes, if they've been allowed, or is it simply just a tyre change from slicks to wets? Because you would tend to. Let's listen in to Maya Vogt, see what she's got.
Just for info, behind you there's a little tornado, basically over the beach.
That's quite ominous, isn't it? I'm not sure I'd want to be sat in a race car if there's a tornado just behind me on the beach.
Can you see it? No. I guess because we can't see the beach.
Yeah, again, the wind's changed direction. If you look at the flags, it's almost coming directly now from the coast. The drivers left as they sit on. These hardcore Dutch fans still staying to watch this. It looks like this guy in the anorak might need to hold on soon, being at the top of that grandstand. But yeah, the update is quite a smart move. I think they're just trying to see if this weather front is either going to get worse or kind of just pass by and just bring a little better weather. It's not too wet on the track at the moment from what I can see, no standing water, but the update will help us with that. They've obviously got some great data, and at the end of the day their job is to keep these drivers safe and make sure the conditions are correct for them to go racing in.
Yeah, absolutely. Naomi, I'd love to get your thoughts on, looking at the driver lineup, who's really impressed. I mean, well, Nina Gateman's popped up, but for her first race, she really has impressed. Her first qualifying starting in 6th. But overall, looking at the series so far, Abby Pulling has clearly been dominant and is right at the top of the standings at the moment with 147 points. But who else has caught your eye on the grid?
Absolutely, Nikki. I agree that firstly, Nina, just to say a word on her, to come in, these drivers already, this will be their fourth race weekend this season so far in these cars, some of them second season. So for her to jump in and just be performing the way she has been this weekend, hats off to her. I remember seeing her at an event, I think she must have been 6, 7 or 8 years old at the time. And then she was karting and you could see how motivated she was. And it's great to see her here this weekend. And who knows, maybe in the future she'll have a secured spot on the grid. And I think this weekend is proving that she absolutely deserves one. Who's been impressing me? So I've got to say Abby Pulling, of course. She's won 4 of the 6 races so far. So that in itself is incredible. And then she's obviously been converting that as well in British F4. So it's not just against the girls that she's winning. She's doing incredible stuff against the boys as well. Dorianne Pin came into the season as the favorite. In Jeddah, she was lightning quick, and I think we thought that she really was going to be the one to beat. Unfortunately, from what I understand, she had an injury to her rib, and I don't know how much that's really impacted her performance, but from the days that I raced in go-karts, I remember rib injuries. I think it's such a painful experience, especially when you're in the car. It can take the wind out of you. So she's obviously been suffering with that, but this weekend it seems like she's brought that form back. She's obviously going to be on pole position for tomorrow's race. So I think between her and Abby, they really are the ones to watch, particularly for the championship. I also want to quickly I know I've been rambling for a little while now, but say a little quick. I want to give a quick shout out to Leah Block, because obviously, she's come into this year with absolutely no experience on circuit racing. She's done most of her racing off-road, and that is a huge change of discipline. So she's been progressing a lot. Bianca Bustamante has been having a pretty good season as well. Just overall, you can see there's a lot of improvement.
Right now, we just danced in the rain.
So that was Emily de Houch there saying, right now we should just start under safety car, which does seem like the obvious decision.
Yeah, you could see her mechanic dancing in the background. I think that was her talk back, just to try and keep the drivers calm. The engineers here almost have too much time to kill, so they'll just be keeping their drivers just a little bit calm and trying to help them out.
Well, Naomi, off the back of what you were mentioning there about Leah Block, sorry to interrupt with that team radio, but we did have the chance to catch up with Leah Block, and this is what she had to say about the circuit.
It's a really unique track, one of the coolest on our calendar, and just doing track walk, you really don't see the actual camber of the corners on the camera or anything, so walking it and driving it is really, really crazy. The wind will be interesting for sure, because every time we go out it should be going a different way, which will definitely affect our brakings or how we take each corner. And the sand, yeah, I mean, we didn't really get to experience that during the test because it was pouring rain the 2 days, but definitely make the racing interesting.
She really has had a brilliant trajectory over the course of this season, Leah Block. Her first couple of races, bearing in mind this is her first full season in single seater. She'd had very limited experience. She finished 16th and 11th. And in the last race, she finished 6th, claiming a good handful of points there. So it's going to be exciting to see how and if that trajectory continues. We can see Jess Edgar there, who's going to be starting from P10 in the American Express car. She has had a mixed season so far, actually. Top result, a 4th place finish in Jeddah, but there have been a few races where she's finished out of the points with a 15th. But, starting from P10 has put her definitely in a point scoring position.
Yeah, I mean, it's her first year learning a lot of these circuits, which is difficult. You can see how hard some of these corners are here at Zandvoort, and having to learn all of these tracks in relatively limited running is hard. I know when she did GB4 back in the UK in 2022, Fortec were really, really impressed with her. She comes from a great heritage of motorsport. It goes all the way back to her great-grandfather actually formed a go-kart track in Cumbria, Raura. It was an amazing track. I remember racing it when I was younger, built in an old mining quarry. So she's really got the DNA there, and I think that's really going to be when we see glimpses of her. It's just as she gets on top of the circuit and really knowing what she can do, and she'll be one of those next year with that experience under her belt of learning the tracks, that she won't have to do that. She can optimize her own performance, and that's when the results tend to come flooding in thick and fast.
Nice smile there from Carrie Schreiner, who's looking like she's in good spirits despite the conditions. Everyone's kind of enjoying the atmosphere, I feel. Like we've seen a few marshals there dancing. I like to see that. Does that help lift spirits, Naomi, when you've got good music, good atmosphere, despite the rather treacherous conditions?
Yeah, I think they're doing everything they can out there to make sure the fans have something to stick around for, because obviously we don't know how long this delay is going to take, but I can tell you that the grandstand in front of me has absolutely cleared out, and there's a lot we can expect them to sit through, but this is pretty treacherous out there, and it's such a shame because so many fans did stay out there to watch this race. So it's a shame for the girls, it's a shame for the series, but I hope that everybody at home who's watching nice and warm on the couch or wherever you're watching from will stick around for this race.
Definitely. You know, maybe go and make yourself a cuppa, but then settle back into the racing, because we promise you it will be non-stop. Now, we can see the number 9 car of Abby Pulling, and we did manage to catch a word with her earlier in the weekend.
Fans are pretty crazy here. I love it. I mean, it's a bit of me. And they just are so raw and passionate. You know, their sea of orange, as we call them, it's so nice to see, and I've been looking forward to this race.
Yeah, the Dutch fans are the best, aren't they? That you can't really beat them in terms of just bringing, oh wow, that's dedication, isn't it? They're staying on for the bitter end. But yeah, the Dutch fans, they really do bring the party to the racetrack despite these tricky conditions. So starting behind the safety car, what are the implications of that? Because ultimately, the race start is really where there's the most opportunity to capitalise on. So I'm sure Dorian Pan was thinking, well, if I get a good race start, potentially if I can take the lead from Abby Pulling, then that's the moment you could look towards a win. But it's going to be harder starting behind the safety car, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It stacks it in the favour of people towards the front, and Abby Pulling is at the front by the most, being on pole position. She gets the clearest air, so she'll have no spray once that safety car comes in, and it just spreads the field out ever so slightly more because you are able to control the start. It's not as fair when the lights go out. Everyone's got to react to it, whereas under a safety car, the leader becomes the idea when they want to go, and they can really choose it. It's a difficult circuit choosing when to go because it is such a fast approach to turn 1. If you go early, the speed is higher, so you generate a bigger slipstream effect behind you. But if you go too late, it's easier for the drivers behind you to work out when you're going to go and can maybe get alongside you. So it's going to be difficult for Pulling. Like she said in her interview at the start, she'd already been planning for a rolling start. When would I go? I would probably be doing some heavy weaving into the final part of turn 13 and then floor it on one of the weaves, expecting maybe Dorian Pan to think I'm concentrating on tyre temp, whereas in fact I should be disappearing into the distance. Easily said, but hard to execute. That's the hard bit with a safety car start. And then
how much of the effects of the slipstream are we going to see, particularly down that start-finish straight? We know how fast it is coming in to that tight right-hander hairpin of turn 1, but we have seen slipstream actually really help overtaking in the past here. What about this track?
Yeah, because the cars are only 175 horsepower, the slipstream is a lot stronger, so you can make a big difference. The VMAX we were getting in qualifying in the wet was 230 kilometers an hour just before they broke for turn number 1. And if you're fully down or alongside, I'd expect you to be able to get to probably 6 or 7 kilometers an hour of extra speed, so you can really slingshot past, and that obviously starts to factor and scale up. If you're the 4th car in the slipstream, you might be as much as 12 to 13 kilometers an hour faster than the car in front who's punching the hole all by themselves. So it will be an interesting factor, and it's definitely something we need to keep an eye out for at the start.
Yeah, well, definitely keep your eye on turn 14, because I think it was reprofiled in 2021 before the circuit reopened to basically increase speed, increase overtaking, because it now really is a proper heavy banking zone. Team radio here, let's listen to what Edgar has to say.
We need some sing-along songs.
What kind of sing-along, like? Mamma Mia, the sing-along version.
Yes.
You can have a special edition of Max, Super Max. Change it to Jess, Super Jess.
Oh, I like it. Naomi, you any good at singing? I bet you are. You sound like you've got a good singing voice.
If I would tell you the truth, then I'd be taking myself out the closet. I'm a bit of a closet singer, if I have to be completely honest. I actually used to sing loads when I was in the racing car. Not when I was racing, but mostly in practice sessions. Yeah, I did actually.
music while you're driving, Hal? I mean, is there, because of the engine noise, can you hear much else going on apart from the engine noise and the wind noise? Because obviously you've got your helmet on and your radio in. But if there are loud enough speakers, can you hear them?
Yeah, well, clearly they can hear them. I mean, the speakers out here are pretty...
While they're driving, though, in the race, would you be able to hear it?
No. You can't hear anything then, honestly. Everything's blocked out. And, I mean, even the adrenaline just blocks everything out. You're so focused on what you're doing. Sometimes I think when you come across the start-finish straight and maybe there's the whole grandstand doing a roar, you might be able to just hear that. But with the engine noise, as you say, and also those noise-cancelling earplugs are really so great, you can barely hear anything.
Brilliant. Well, we won't be singing to them then as they cross the finish line if it doesn't make any difference. Let's have a quick chat about the female quotient, because they are a digital company, media company, who are basically trying to find parity for women in the workplace. And that's why they have a collaboration with F1 Academy and have the wildcard driver with them this race weekend. But it's not just for this race. They will be part of the season going forward, which is brilliant to see, holding various events as well. So a lovely collaboration here between the FQ and F1 Academy.
Yeah, really good. The wild card is such a good idea, isn't it? It's really fresh. We've seen it throughout the season, add a bit of spice to it. And it just means that it gives another driver an opportunity and a bit of a shop window. Like Naomi said, maybe we can get Nina for a full season next year after such a strong showing this year. It would be really, really good to keep strengthening the field and maybe even start to get more and more drivers on it, and then you just get even more depth there, more winners, and then the racing just gets better as we see the rain really piling down, don't we? We've had 3 further updates in 5 minutes so far, so race control are just having to sit tight and work out what they can do. Have seen a few more setup changes being done. We saw actually Nina's car there earlier on. One of the mechanics, she had the engine cover off and was changing the roll bar, so how the roll bar interacts on the rear axle. You can change the length of the rods to stiffen or soften how the car can roll into grip. And in the wet, you would soften that off. Just because there's less energy going through the car, you have to soften it to allow it to roll and find the grip that it wants to get round the corners. So I think all the teams will be getting their full wet setup on. Hard to do when you're on the grid. Your only options really are the roll bar that I said about, the dampers. You can soften them up so as they compress, they can take that energy a little bit easier. You could change the front and rear wings, add a bit more downforce if you think it would help. But for example, if you had an unlimited amount of time, you'd be changing the springs, the ride heights, the toe, the camber on the tyres to try and generate more grip in these conditions. But these fans just need to get on the track themselves. I think they're dry out with all the energy they've got. And I mean, it's nearly 5:30 in the evening local time, and they don't look like they want to stop anytime soon.
It's brilliant though. So many people, so many fans have stayed to watch F1 Academy. And earlier, I'm sure you saw someone jumping around in the Campos team kit, Gabriela Parra, who is the race engineer at Campos. And, you know, she is just one of the many brilliant ambassadors for women in motorsport, because she's a race engineer. She came back to work last year for the Barcelona race after 2 weeks after having a baby. She was pushing the cars into the pit lane while pregnant and then went straight back to work. And so it's just a reminder again, of course, F1 Academy isn't just about giving these 16 drivers the opportunity to shine. It's also giving everyone off track and behind the scenes the opportunity to get into motorsport as well. Yeah, it's just fantastic. I mean, Naomi, you must have seen it as well. It's not just the drivers, it's everyone behind the scenes. You know, I remember going into a paddock a few years ago and you could potentially be the only woman around. I mean, that just is not the case anymore. It has completely transformed.
It really has. It's not just, as you say, it's not just the ladies in the cockpits. It's also the whole ecosystem in motorsport, I feel, has really changed over the last couple of years. There's been a couple of factors that have obviously helped with that. I think Drive to Survive has also been incredibly good to get motorsport as a whole into more and more households and gives it visibility amongst more people. And now, I mean, today the figures are astonishing in a very positive way. That, you know, today in Formula One, 60% of the audience is male, 40% of it is female, and those are incredible numbers, and it's trickling down. I mean, it's giving young girls more interest in the sport, and ultimately that's one of our biggest issues is we have far too few women entering the sport at grassroots levels, and that goes across the board from driving, engineering, mechanics, marketing, all of it across the board. There's just not enough women entering the sport, and that is really, really changing, and it's so positive to see because numbers are so important and they do make the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it has to happen from a grassroots level. And then, you know, as we grow with it, the pool of talent will grow too. I've got some friends who've got young kids. I mean, they've got 2 girls, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And they always say, oh, listen to this.
I like watching the screen. There's like all these people dancing and stuff.
They are here for you, Chloe. They are dancing for Chloe Chambers and the rest of the F1 Academy drivers. I mean, they have stayed in these pouring conditions to see you race, which is a massive credit to the series and to the drivers. But yeah, we've got some friends and, you know, 2-year-olds and a 4-year-old, and they say, oh no, mummy, I want to watch the girls. How can I watch the girls race? And now we have F1 Academy and they can. And they're so young and they're requesting to watch this sport. So it really is going to change the future and change the face of motorsport as we know it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate and sort of echo Naomi's sentiment that I've been in motorsport all of my life. So I've seen the influx of females into motorsport, and because I'm competitive and I want to win, I just look at it simply of it's adding 50% more options of staff for these teams. So if we can recruit better, we have a better chance of winning. So it's just opened up all the opportunities for the teams, but also the females within motorsport to work in those teams. So it's literally a win-win for everyone involved. And the motorsport, and a lot of motorsport at the moment, is in such strong health. We need the support to get more and more staff to make sure the quality of these teams keeps going, because if the quality goes up and my chance of winning when I get into a race car goes up, at the end of the day, that is what it is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is what it's all about. And so are the fans, though, of course. Now, let's take a look at some of the drivers who are towards the back of the grid. Amna Alcobizi here, we saw just a little bit sort of at the start of the show that she span in practice, or is it the qualifying session, down at turn 3. We've seen a mixed, I think, performance from her over the course of this season. What is it that she's got to do to kind of dig deep and really focus? Because actually last year she had a good season. She finished 6th. She had 2 wins and 2 podiums.
Yeah, and it's difficult. We saw a couple of spins in qualifying for her, and that's really the big problem, is when you make one mistake, it's then the second one normally follows quite quickly for a couple of reasons. Normally, one, you've lost your rhythm, so suddenly you're thinking about things you weren't thinking before, and then you start self-doubting yourself as well, so then it's really hard to
Sorry, I've got to interrupt you there, because Charlotte Phelps from MP Motorsport is doing all the dancing for us. She's bringing the atmosphere, and that just needed a quick mention there. Back to you, Joe.
I think it's probably fighting off hypothermia at this point, isn't it? They are soaked to the skin. We're now down to 16 degrees air temp as well. So I think they're smiling through gritted teeth, in all honesty. But I think you've just got to embrace it and go. But yeah, we've seen how quick Amna can be, so the pace is there, and it's just trying to rekindle it, work with the team, work with your driver coach, just to see what you can do to find it, because she's got great experience testing a Formula E car back in Saudi Arabia, so the talent's there, we just need to find the form.
Naomi, I mean, I'm sure you've got some views on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a really tricky circuit as well. I think Amna obviously has quite a lot of experience. She's raced in other series before. She raced in this series last year. But this track is, you know, it's quite a big pill for these drivers to swallow, and it's very old school-esque. You've got grass on the side of the track, you've got gravel traps, you've got walls everywhere, and if it's so important to continue to build your confidence in a car on a track like this, and for her to have a couple of spins will definitely have knocked her confidence a little bit, but she's got to not let that get to her, and it's so important as well for them to light the tires. I mean, the grip from one car to another car can really make a difference depending on how well you warm your tires, so that's super important as well.
So we have just had a message from Race Control that the F1 Academy Race 1 has been postponed. That's obviously due to these conditions. They don't feel it's safe for the drivers to go out on track with this rain and wind. So it is likely that it will be rescheduled, hopefully for tomorrow. We are yet to find out exactly the details of that, but for now, the F1 Academy Race 1 has been postponed. That's a real shame, but obviously in these situations, they have to do what's right for the driver. And that is the priority here, the safety of these drivers.
Yeah, and I said it earlier, that's Race Control's #1 priority. And a lot of people will be watching this frustrated and saying we should have got this race underway. I actually think Race Control have played every minute of this race perfectly. They got it going as soon as they could on slicks. It rained so hard on that green flag that they had to postpone it. And they've done a really smart job just buying themselves time, because this rain has got worse and worse. And you look and you may say at home from your warm sofa that Naomi spoke about, they should just go driving. When these cars aquaplane, they turn into canoes. The tyres don't touch the ground and you're not in control. And they are definitely likely to be doing that in a lot of places around here. The up and down undulations mean that you get rivers pouring across the track. We're looking probably at the best part. The main straight is the flattest, the best drain, and you can see the crown in the road. So this was the only option, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it obviously is a big shame, but it's the right thing to do. And I guess that's one of the things that when you are on a busy race schedule, when it's been a jam-packed day of on-track action, despite whatever the weather is, you can't change the schedule. This is the time for the race. And unfortunately, these are the consequences. Naomi, have you had experience of this in the past?
Yes, of course. And as you say, it's one of those things where you really do want Race Control to make the call. We've seen it before, and you know, as you guys already mentioned, obviously the conditions on the track because of aquaplaning and all that can make it really unsafe. And visibility is also a huge element. I mean, whoever goes out into the lead has got incredible visibility, but everyone behind that has got so much spray that often it's like driving into a white wall. And we've seen, you know, really, really bad things happen in those kinds of situations because these drivers are so young. They don't want to be saying, I don't want to go out there, I don't think it's safe, because that maybe makes them look like they're not brave enough. And so therefore sometimes it is important for someone to make that call, because as you say, safety in this kind of situation is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed that they can find some time in the schedule to get the first race booked in for tomorrow, or maybe we will just have one race, potentially double points available. No, I'm making things up now. That's probably not going to happen, so don't listen to me. But it is obviously a big implication for the series, potentially, with potentially one race left. Less. I mean, there are still a huge number of points up for grabs. I mean, if both races go ahead today, there's still 168 points up for grabs into the last 6 races of the season. I mean, looking at how the championship's coming, also the series is standing at the moment, Abby Pulling is really pulling ahead. But Dorian Pan, Chloe Chambers, Lorraine Marty, Bianca Bustamante, they're all kind of right up there. So there is very much potential for things to change. But we will actually be ending this coverage shortly, as there is going to be no race. But we will be bringing you as much information as possible. Do check the socials, because as soon as we have information on when this race is going to take place, we will, of course, let you know. Naomi Schiff, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry we didn't bring you any racing action. Joe Osborne, of course, you will be back tomorrow for that race in the morning. Whether we call it race 1 or race 2, we will find out. Thank you to staying with us for this show, and we will go racing, I promise you that, tomorrow, to find out whether Abby Pulling can continue her dominance at the top of the F1 Academy series. We'll see you then.